Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. This is going to be my follow-up Meg the Stallion video. I know that everybody's at home right now on lockdown. This video is probably going to be a bit on the longer side. We're going to go pretty in-depth talking about some numbers and some facts that came out about Meg the Stallion's contract, along with my personal opinion on what I think is going to be the argument for her lawyer, for her to possibly win her case. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video because I know everybody is at home right now. So I want to start off by talking about Suga, which is Meg the Stallion's third EP that came out on Friday, March 6th. I wanted to start off talking about Suga because I've seen yet again a lot of people's personal opinions flying in the face of facts with this EP. I see a lot of people calling Suga a flop, which is really weird to me because per chart data on Twitter, this is actually Meg the Stallion's biggest sales debut to date. Hopefully, as you guys notice, I'm also going to include a few different things in this video in the form of pictures and charts and graphics for you guys because a few people have asked to see some actual numbers and things of that nature. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. That's going to be a little bit different. So yeah, I see a lot of people calling Suga a flop. Really weird. This was actually Meg the Stallion's biggest sales debut to date. Again, it came out Friday, March 6th and moved roughly between 35 and 40 units in the first 5 days. We don't have updated data as of yet because everything is kind of shut down right now, but Suga opened at number 10 on the US Billboard 200 with 41,000 album equivalent units, becoming Megan Thee Stallion's second US top 10 album. Let me also say for a minute something about album equivalent units because a lot of people seem really confused about album equivalent units. Album equivalent units is not one stream, okay? Because in my last video on Meg the Stallion, I talked a little bit about her numbers, and somebody was like, well, Meg the Stallion doing those kind of numbers doesn't actually mean she's making money because I said Meg has 3 platinum records and 1 almost gold record, which is almost 3.5 million units moved. Somebody was like, 3.5 million streams is actually only this, and this. I was like, excuse me, I did not say 3.5 million streams. I said 3.5 million units. An album equivalent unit, I'm going to tell you what the breakdown is right now. 1 album sale equals 10 song downloads equals 1,500 song streams, okay? So a unit, an equivalent unit is actually 1,500 streams, not 1. So Meg having 3 platinum plaques and 1 that's almost gold, that's 3.5 million units, not streams. Let me go ahead and do the math. Let me do the math for you and tell you how many streams that actually is. Hold on. So 3.5 million units. 3.5 million units times 1,500 streams, that would be 5,250,000,000 streams. So Meg has over 5 billion streams. Over 5 billion streams to reach that amount of album equivalent unit sales, okay? So again, when I say 3.5 million units, that is not 3.5 million streams. So at least know what you're talking about before you start throwing shit out there. Moving on. Suga actually has done the most numbers Meg the Stallion has done as of yet. This is her second US top 10 album. It's her biggest sales debut to date. Tina Snow and Fever both moved less units than Suga and both ended up with several platinum plaques. So I'm really curious to see how these numbers shake out in the end for Suga. It's been out again for about 2 weeks. So really curious to see. I'm pretty sure they're going to release updated numbers at the end of the month. So we'll see what those updated numbers are. Meg the Stallion also confirmed on Ebro's show, as well as on an interview with Angie Martinez, that Suga was supposed to be her debut album, which she also had originally said when she covered Rolling Stone with SZA and Normani. Suga was originally supposed to be her debut album with a release date in May, but since she's beefing with the label, once she got the restraining order against them, she wanted to release something for the fans because she said in her interviews that she doesn't know when she'll be able to release music again. So she picked her favorite songs that were finished from the debut album and dropped this EP, because I've also seen a lot of conversation about why would she drop this, what's going on. Meg the Stallion herself has said several times, even prior to this incident coming out, that Suga was supposed to be the debut album. She basically just dropped, some stuff because she doesn't know when she's going to be able to drop again. 40,000 first week sales is actually really respectable numbers, for a new artist that just, sort of picked her favorite songs and turned them into an EP. I see people comparing her to Lil Uzi Vert, who dropped the highly, highly, highly anticipated Eternal Atake also on March 6th. And I've seen people saying well, Uzi moved 175,000 units and Meg didn't do nothing. It's like, that's fucking Lil Uzi Vert. Like, of course he did. Like, Uzi is a huge star, and people have literally been waiting for this album from him for 2 years. Like, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, none of us even knew who Meg Thee Stallion was. Maybe some of y'all did, local artists, deep underground heads, not to take anything away from you, but like the level that she's on right now, they've been like really, really, really pushing and promoting Suga really hard. There's billboards in Times Square. She's doing Vogue interviews. She's on ESPN Radio. She's on Andrew Martinez's show. She's on Ebro in the Morning. You know, like, from where she was 2 years ago from now, she's come very, very far versus Uzi, who's been famous for a while now. And it's really weird to see this sort of comparison between a more established artist and a newer artist, and saying that since the newer artist didn't do what the established artist did, they flopped. This is something that people do a lot with this comparison of new artists to old, and it's really, really weird. They do this a lot also with a lot of the new R&B girls. Like, well, Beyonce did, like, it's Beyonce. You can't compare the new girls to Beyonce. Like, and you guys know I've said this in my videos several times that I don't like these comparisons. They're fucking weird. But while we're talking about Lil Uzi Vert, let's also mention that Uzi was in the exact same situation as Meg, which is why Eternal Atake actually took so long to come out. As an unknown artist, Lil Uzi Vert signed to a local Philly label that was ran by DJ Drama and DJ Cannon. And then, as his career sort of blew up, he said publicly on social media that they were exploiting him, that they were blocking him from releasing music, hence why Eternal Atake couldn't come out, and that they had him in a predatory contract. DJ Drama and DJ Cannon said Uzi was lying, that they were not blocking him from releasing music, and that he wanted to abandon them for a larger label, and that was the problem. DJ Drama, DJ Cannon, and Uzi, Lil Uzi Vert, have been in a very, very, very ugly, very public back and forth for the last 2 years over this album and these contract disputes. Uzi literally released a song called Free Uzi, right? And everybody was on his side. So it's just, again, very interesting to me to see the difference in reaction to Uzi finally getting out Eternal Atake versus Meg Thee Stallion getting out Suga. Very interesting to sort of see this public reaction. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of get a little bit out of the way in terms of Suga and the numbers that Suga are doing, and a lot of the comparisons being made to Eternal Atake, and the fact that Uzi was in a very similar situation, and everybody was on Uzi's side. Really interesting stuff. But now that that's out of the way, let's start off by discussing some things about Meg Thee Stallion's contract that were in dispute that are now public record. The contract has been going around. Several people got their hands on a copy. Complex got their hands on a copy. Rolling Stone got their hands on a copy. Random music lawyers on motherfucking Twitter got their hands on a copy. Everybody has been weighing in with their opinions on if her contract is industry standard. The reason why this phrase industry standard is important and has been going around is because Meg's lawsuit is also public record. She literally put on IG. You can go look it up at the courthouse. So you can look up her lawsuit as well. And her lawsuit seems like it rests on 2 points. The first point being that 1501 gets paid even though they do literally nothing, exact phrase. And the second point is that her contract is not industry standard. Those two phrases are used repeatedly, industry standard, as well as saying that her label does literally nothing. So I feel like by that concept, her lawsuit only has to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that 1501 does literally nothing and that the contract is not up to industry standards. That's all Meg Thee Stallion has to prove. Doesn't matter how old she was when she signed the contract. It doesn't matter how we personally feel about her trying to wiggle out of her contract. Those two things are the only things that she has to prove. Those terms are, literally do nothing and industry standard. I think that's going to be the cornerstone of her argument. And I feel like a lot of people are sort of quibbling over things that ultimately are not going to end up mattering in terms of the argument that her lawyer is going to make. And I think that's why Meg Thee Stallion also seems really, really unbothered by everything that's going around. She's running around Times Square. Well, she was before they shut everything down. She was running around Times Square playing tag. She was, now she's doing TikTok Savage challenges. Like, she does not seem upset by this, which I also think is bothering people because I think people want her to, be upset and apologetic towards her label. But I think that ultimately she has a pretty solid argument, and I'm really interested, as I said in my previous video, to see how this plays out. I've seen a lot of quibbling over the numbers. Her contract getting out there confirmed that she has two 70-30 other splits and a 60-40 music earnings split. And what that means is that Meg takes home 70% of her other earnings, including show money, and that she takes home 40% of her music earnings. Her contract getting out there also revealed that Meg does not, in fact, have partial ownership of her masters. Meg Thee Stallion does not have partial ownership of her masters. I think maybe Carl Crawford was confused when he said that, because according to Rolling Stone, which ran the contract, 1501 actually has undivided, I'm using quotes because these are the exact words, undivided 50% interest in the worldwide copyright. So they have undivided 50% interest in the copyright. That means that they split the copyright 50-50. 1501 and Carl Crawford have exclusive ownership over the masters, which is something different. So maybe Carl thought that the masters and the copyright were the same, but what it actually means is that 1501 and Meg split the copyright 50-50, which is basically the money from her name and likeness. Rolling Stone also reported that 1501 Entertainment had the sole and exclusive rights to use Meg's name, both legal and professional, her approved likeness, approved picture, and approved portrait in any manner whatsoever, and in perpetuity when it came to merchandising and live performances, which means they can use her name and her likeness forever until the end of all eternity, however they want. The company was also given contract approval over all of Megan's appearances and live performances, which means they have to approve when and where she performs. Even though they split the show money 70-30, Meg cannot perform unless Carl and 1501 say that it's fine. Carl also allegedly said that Meg got $15,000 up front and $50,000 out of the $300 signing bonus. We don't know anything about the signing bonus as of yet, but her contract states that she only got $10,000 up front, not $15,000. So let's just put those two things to bed now. Meg Thee Stallion does not have partial ownership of her masters, and she only received $10,000 up front. These are the facts, period. Other facts from this contract that I think are important to note is that there are several clauses in here, one of which stipulates that Meg Thee Stallion is basically an independent contractor to 1501, and that 1501 is under no obligation to procure employment. Exact words. Under no obligation to procure employment for Megan. I'm quite shocked that that's in there. I was shocked to see that. It's literally in the contract that 1501 does not have to find her work. They are under no obligation to procure her employment. So hearing that a part of her argument says they literally do nothing and yet they get paid and they have all this exclusive say over her shows and over her contracts, but they don't have an obligation to procure employment for Megan. It literally says that in the contract. That is extremely shocking to me. Also, there's a 45-minute clause in there, which some of you mentioned in the comments of my previous video. There's a clause in there that states that, again, exact words, for an album delivery to count towards Meg's deal, it must clock in at no less than 45 minutes. So a lot of people were saying that Meg's 3 EPs that she's previously released, Suga, Fever, and Tina Snow, have not counted as albums because they're less than 45 minutes. And it's just like, well, that's just it. I think that's going to end up tripping up 1501 in court. I think that's going to be used as proof that her contract is in fact not industry standard. Because I looked it up. An industry standard album length is at least 6 tracks or over 25 minutes to be considered an album. All of Meg's 3 projects clock in at over 6 tracks or over 25 minutes. Fever had 14 tracks and was 40 minutes. Tina Snow had 10 tracks and was 30 minutes. Suga had 9 tracks and was 24 minutes. So according to industry standards, all 3 of those could be counted as albums. The fact that they included a clause in there saying that it has to be at least 45 minutes goes against industry standard. I remember that this was a big thing when 444 by Jay-Z came out because it was only 10 tracks and 36 minutes and it got nominated for Album of the Year Grammy. And a lot of people were saying that's not fair, it's an EP, it's not an album, but it did meet industry standards. So people are saying, why should Meg be able to renegotiate before she puts out an album and this and that? I think her lawyer is going to try and argue that all 3 of Meg's released projects meet industry standards for an album, but they are not considered albums by 1501 because of that 45-minute loophole in her contract, right? I think the terminology industry standard was used specifically for a reason. That 45-minute loophole is not industry standard for the length of an album. It is factually, objectively not. And again, as I said in my previous video, Meg is also a proven earner and hitmaker, so even with no album out, I personally feel like that argument is petty and reductive, but it's a fact that they have language in her contract that is not industry standard, and they might be able to convince a judge that that language is exploitative, that they're exploiting her. Her percentage splits might be standard, 70-30, 70-30, 60-40. Her percentage splits might be standard. I've seen people saying that's a standard cut. Her $10,000 that she received up front, that may be standard. I've seen people saying that's a standard payment. It was also confirmed that in addition to her advance, 1501 committed somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 for her projects. Not millions of dollars, but a max. They have a cap on it in her contract. A max $100K, including mastering and marketing costs. Now that sounds low to me. $100,000 sounds like nothing. And Meg is saying that she's paid for the rest out of pocket. Now that has not been confirmed. Maybe that's even standard, because I've seen people even saying like, well, that's standard. But the 45-minute time clause is going to trip 1501 up in court, along with the stipulations that Meg is basically an independent contractor and they are not obligated to find her work. So if they go stand in front of a judge, if Meg and her lawyer, Richard, go stand in front of a judge and say, what does 1501 do for me, right? What will 1501 be able to say? Right? They'll be able to say, okay, we gave you $100,000. $100,000 provided by the label does not seem like a lot for all of these expenses and costs. If she's really paying out of pocket along with these 70-30 and 60-40 splits, I don't know. I really feel like the judge might rule in her favor. Yes, I know that Carl Crawford has said that Meg owes him $2 million. He says that she stopped paying him after her Roc Nation deal. He claims that she has not paid him his 30% cut for her 15 shows. But Carl, again, has not provided receipts for this. He has not provided any bank statements, confirming this. It's not confirmed. And I don't know. It says in Meg's contract that all the shows and everything have to go through 1501. So how is he not getting paid? I don't know. Like, I'm not calling Carl Crawford a liar. Like, I'm just saying, it's just, this man is not Jesus. His word is not law. Please don't sit in the comments talking about what Carl said. We know what Carl said. He has not provided proof. Now, the contract has gotten out, so we have seen what the contract says, So I'm going to need some proof. Where are the bank statements? Where are the receipts? What is the accounting? There is actual proof that there's a 45-minute stipulation in Meg's contract. There's proof of that. There is actual proof of saying these are the numbers that they're required to pay Meg. This is the way that they're splitting up the money. There's proof of that. Where's the proof that Meg Thee Stallion owes this man $2 million? Where's the proof? I don't know. Meg's lawyer is probably going to argue that she has fulfilled 3 albums in her contract and that the label is exploiting her with a 45-minute time clause that is not standard. I think that's going to be the industry standard aspect of the lawsuit. And then they're going to argue that she pays the majority of her fees out of pocket, that she was only given a $100,000 budget max, which is true, it was proven, and that the label does nothing. They are not obligated to find her work, while Roc Nation handles management and 300 handles distribution. If Roc Nation is handling management and 300 is handling distribution, and 1501 is not required, not obligated, to procure work from Meg, which it says in the contract, there's literally a clause statement in her contract saying 1501 is not obligated to procure her any work. So theoretically, since she has distribution and management deals, since she has those deals, and her label is not required to help her find work, she has to hustle that herself. What is the record label doing now currently? Not what did they do to put her on previously. What are they doing now to deserve these pretty substantial splits out of her earnings? What have you done for me lately is going to be that they literally do nothing and get paid aspect of her lawsuit. And them having her in this contract with this 45-minute clause saying that her 3 releases are not albums, even though they meet the industry standard for albums, is going to be the predatory, exploitive exploitative aspect of it. And I'm not going to say that she doesn't have a case. I really don't know how it's going to end. And I know Carl is going to argue what he's been arguing, which is that Meg owes him money for these 15 shows and that he's being poached and that she shouldn't be let out of her label until she fulfills the terms. I know that. A lot of people have been saying, why should she be let out of her contract before she fulfills the terms? She's trying to make the argument that the terms are not fair, and she has fulfilled the terms by industry standards, and that's why she should be let out. That's the part that seems like it's not connecting for people. I truly believe that Meg and her lawyer are going to argue that by industry standards, she has already technically released 3 albums, but they have this 45-minute clause that's keeping her in a hole. Meanwhile, they take these percentages of her profits, but they're not legally required to help her actually work in any way. I think that's going to be the argument. And going off the facts of the public lawsuit and the public contract, not the he said, she said, I feel like what's in her contract supports that argument. Again, I would love to see some bank statements released. I would love to see some proof that Meg Thee Stallion owes Carl Crawford $2 million. But even if she does, even then, I could still possibly see a judge just ordering her to pay the $2 million and letting her out of her contract. Sorry. So let me also just say again what I closed my last video with, which is that I never said that, I don't think anybody's wrong. I understand exactly where everybody's coming from. I understand that Carl doesn't want his prize artist to get poached. I understand that Meg probably feels like she's a big fish in a little pond and she wants to move on. Again, this exact same thing played out with DJ Cannon, DJ Drama, and Lil Uzi Vert. You know, this type of thing happens. It happens regularly when you're a small local artist and then you start blowing up. This will not be resolved because both parties have their own best interests at heart. So it just has to go in front of a judge that's impartial. And I just also want to throw in there that this is a prime example of why you can never mix friends and family and business. It seems like both parties also are hurt on both sides. Meg has said she thought they were family and now she feels they're screwing her over and exploiting her. And Carl has said he thought they were family and, you know, now she's trying to leave them. Let this situation be a reminder that business is business and personal is personal. And you have to know where those lines are before you motherfucking start signing on the dotted line, okay? For anybody that needs a reminder of that lesson. Also, been seeing a rumor going around that the trademark names of Meg Thee Stallion, Hot Girl Summer, and Tina Snow are owned by 300 as part of the distribution deal. I looked them up within the U.S. trademark website. This is also public record. All 3 of those names have live trademarks that are owned by Hot Girl Trademark Holdings as of September 2019. I don't know who is the personal owner of Hot Girl Trademark Holdings. Obviously, maybe that's Leah Cohen. I don't know. But as of right now, the owner of those names is still a rumor, okay? So many rumors. I feel like the last 3 weeks of my life, it's just been like rumors. Like I've just been living in a fucking gossip folks rumor mill. Word to Missy Elliott. Like I really wish, I don't know if this is like an internet thing, a social media thing, that people just have like this constant drip of rumors and internet and social media and gossip. And so I just feel like let's all read for ourselves, research for ourselves, not just be spoon-fed and IV dripped information. There will be links for everything that I talked about in this video in the description box for those of you that want to read and check out for yourselves. You guys know I always include links in the description box. So I really have been enjoying Suga. If you guys want an in-depth review of Suga, let me know and I will do that for you. I also have some other videos planned that I'm going to start rolling out because we all have nothing but time. So food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.